I'm going to go through that part one more time. It only took a second. But to find the materials you need for our trainings and other documents, if you go to our webpage, cg.se.gov, and go to Guidance and Forms for State Agencies, which pulls down a drop-down menu, and you go to GAAP reporting. You can find a GAAP calendar for all our reporting packages. This has been updated for FY25, so you can go ahead and download that now. And for everything else, you go to agencies that submit year-end reporting packages. Once you're on here, we have not uploaded the updated FY25 templates for the reporting packages you'll be completing the old way. Those will be uploaded before, I think, June 1st. But you will notice that we have changed all the packages that you're doing Workiva, where there's no longer a package for you to click on. It says Workiva only. You can also go to this training materials link, and it will take you to a page that has all our training videos for all our reporting packages and prior year trainings. The Workiva training will be uploaded and put at the top of this page. Does anyone have any questions about that? You can type in the chat, or you can raise your hand and we can unmute you. So for everyone that does not yet have a Workiva logon, we have 2 contacts from every agency that have been added, and they'll be doing an initial GAAP contact reporting package. That's due May 16th, which is this Friday. They would add whoever else needs to be put in Workiva. And for FY25, that will only be people that are doing reporting packages in Workiva. So if you do a package that is still being done the old way, you don't need to be added to Workiva yet. But for everyone else, they would add you on that GAAP contact listing, and we'll be adding you to Workiva next week and contacting you to make sure you're able to get into the system. And Linda, is this still showing my website, or is it showing a PowerPoint now?
It is showing a PowerPoint.
Okay. So this is all the reporting packages that will be done in Workiva. So if you have someone that does one of these packages, either as a preparer or a reviewer, that is who else you'll need to add to your GAAP contact reporting package. We'll go into that in more detail in a second. This is, Linda, can you see the GAAP calendar?
Yes.
This is the GAAP calendar I was talking about that's updated on our website. It's the same as, it's small.
Can you make it larger, Layla?
Is that better?
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
Okay. This is the same as it is every year. We just added a new column to tell you which way you'll be completing the package. So hopefully this will help alleviate some of the confusion, because I know it's hard having to do it 2 different ways this year. And to clarify, I was going to go into this too. We are doing the GAAP contacts. There's going to be 2 submissions of that, and this is just because this is the first year we're using Workiva, and we need to get everyone into the system a little earlier. So everyone that we've already contacted and asked for 2 agency contacts. They're already in Workiva. Those 2 GAAP contacts are going to complete an initial GAAP contacts reporting package due May 16th. We'll take all that data and upload it, and then on June 6th, you'll do an official reporting package submission for FY25. One thing you'll notice in here, I'm going to go ahead and pull up the GAAP contacts. We're still working on the packages, so we can't roll forward to FY25. So this initial GAAP contact reporting package submission is going to say FY24 on it. This is just, like I said, to help us get everyone into the system a little earlier. Your official GAAP contact submission for FY25 will be due June 6th. So there's two of them, but this first one is not, like I said, an official one per se, but it is still required. And we also didn't want to override this initial one. So that's another reason why it's showing in FY24. It'll stay there after we roll forward and you'll still be able to see it. We're not going to delete it. But we didn't want to wait till June 6th to try to get the rest of the contacts into Workiva. All of it will be done in Workiva, the initial and the one due June 6th. Any other questions? Okay. So for the people that do have a Workiva login, hopefully you are logged in. I don't know how many people have more than one screen. So if you're someone that doesn't, you may want to just watch the training and do this later. But if you do have more than one screen, you may want to pull up your Workiva on another screen and have this on your second screen. Okay. Someone asked, was the initial, when we sent ACFR our contact information via email, made sure we could sign in? I'm not really sure what's being asked there. Let's see if I can find you, Amanda, and have you just ask the group that question. Well, that's not working. Can you clarify a little more what you mean? Someone else asked, should they be able to edit Workiva already? For the GAAP contact package, you should be able to edit, but you may want to wait until we actually get into it to make sure you're doing things correctly before you know if you are lacking editing abilities or not. So I'm going to come back to questions and stop questions for a second. You can go ahead and post them, but I'm not going to answer them again until the next question break. Linda, can you still see my Workiva screen?
Yes. Okay.
Like I said, everyone that can log in, hopefully you are. Everyone else, you can just sit back and watch and take notes. But for the people that logged in, you should get to a home screen. Yours is going to look a lot different than mine because I am an organizer and have access to a lot more files, but you'll still have this default board screen and all this other stuff at the top. You just won't see all these files. But if you will, click on the Files tab below that to the left, and you're going to go to Closing Packages Year-End. And within that, you would go to General 2024, click on that folder. And on your end, you should only see your agency's code, or if you're a shared services agency, you might see more than one, but I'm able to see everyone's. So I'm going to work in E120 for this first one. And everyone should be able to see this 1.0 GAAP contact FY 2024 reporting package, and it should have your agency code at the end. And based on a quick check, everyone should have that in there. Tammy, I am not sure why you're not able to see any files. You should be able to. If anyone's not able to see their files, just put it in the chat, but we may have to get back to you after the training. I apologize for that. But I have tested this with a few people and didn't have any issues. So I'm not sure why you're not able to see anything, Tammy. There are some in the trash folder. Those should not be the ones you're using. The ones that you need to use should be in your folder. Please don't go into the trash. I'm going to click in here. Now, some of these I can see, but you should see restricted in these places. You don't need to worry about any of that. You would be starting with this, which is going to be your signature page. I'm actually going to come back to this at the end because you should be doing it at the end. But this is the instructions page. I'm going to read through this, but it does include a list of the packages that will be completed in Workiva this year. It has detailed step-by-step instructions for everything on the package. So in addition to this training and the recording of the training, you also have this that you can read through for further guidance. This is the actual GAAP contact form. I'm going to kind of just go through how to fill this out and the different scenarios for completing it. For the people that we already have on the list, they're going to pre-populate, and that data will show in white cells. Blue cells are your input cells, and for every package, these blue cells are going to be the only places where you can add or modify information. You can't do anything in the other cells. So if I wanted to modify something that's already pulling in, let's say I wanted to change Allison's title, the Director of Administration, I would just change that, but I would leave everything that stayed the same as is. I wouldn't type anything in these other boxes. If I wanted to add a new contact that wasn't on here at all, like Brian Gaines, I would find a row that has nothing in the white cells, and I would fill out all of this. Typing in gibberish here. Finally, if I wanted to, let's say I wanted to delete someone, I would go to a row, to the row with that person's information, and I would type delete in all caps in the name column. Please don't put it anywhere else but the name column. And it's helpful if it's in all caps. It doesn't necessarily have to be, but we can see it more easily if you do. I think that covers it for adding or modifying the users. I'm going to scroll over here and show you these 5 columns to the right. The sensitive payroll information column basically a question we had in the old GAAP contact reporting form. Is the same as before. You're going to put yes if you want them to receive it, no if they don't, you don't want them to receive it. This relates to the compensated absences report, and I guess now the sick leave report that is sent via email. That is not going to be done in Workiva, and the person does not need to be in Workiva in order for you to get them those payroll reports. The general email communications, this is new. This is just our general mass informational emails from the ACRA reporting division. This is not the CG's office as a whole, just our financial reporting division. So updates about training or new GASB implementations or changes we made to our website or policies and procedures, etc. You can add someone and put yes here and put no to everything else if you want them just to receive those. So if maybe you have someone that's kind of higher up at your agency that isn't actually dealing with reporting packages, but you want them in the loop for those, you can put yes. SKIS reports, these would be all the other SKIS reports you get for the reporting packages. If you're adding them to Workiva, you're probably going to be putting yes here too. But just in case, maybe you have someone that does a reporting package that you don't get a SKIS report for, and you don't want them to see them, you could put no here. The last two relate to your Workiva access. If you want to add someone to Workiva and have them be able to view and or edit every reporting package that's in there, you will put yes, and you put no to the second one. If you have someone that you only want them to view and or edit a certain number of reporting packages, whether that be 1, 3, whatever, you put yes to this one and no to that one. Now, you're going to get a message that pops up that says, please contact the CGO if you do that. This is something that it's not easy for us to do. And we did contact agencies and kind of do a preliminary survey to see how many would need this. And we only had a couple respond and say that they would want to have some limited rights for certain users. But all of that was limited to the litigation reporting package, which is not yet in Workiva. So hopefully we don't have anyone putting yes here for FY25 because litigation would not be in here. But if you do put yes, you're going to have to contact us and we're going to have to determine if it's really necessary. And if it is, then we'll be able to get it work in the system. It's not easy for us to do. Everything. Even though you're going to have some people pre-populate from the existing listing, you will not have, obviously, these 4 new columns pre-populating because they weren't on the old GAAP contact reporting package. So please make sure you're filling out all the columns. If you have someone, everything else is the same, but these are blank, you'll need to come in and fill these out. Make sure it's complete. Please also keep in mind that for everyone that was added to Workiva, that was not, you weren't necessarily added to our GAAP contact listing we keep updated. I just added you to Workiva, so you'll still need to be updated on this GAAP contact form, which will give you a little more practice. Part of the reason why we did it that way. I want to make sure everyone has hopefully something to fill out this one time, so we're able to get a good test with every user before we go into our full-blown official reporting packages. So before I move on to the signature page, does anyone have questions about this particular form? Someone asked if HR would need access to Workiva this year. The answer is no, and I don't foresee HR needing access at any point because the forms that they got, or the reports that they got for compensated absences were done via email. I don't think that's going to change. If it does, we'll let you know, but they do not need access this year. Someone else asked, we have different staff that complete some closing packages, but they are submitted by 1 or 2 team members. Do the team members that complete the package need access, example, AR and AP? So kind of going back to what I said about the list of packages, that you can go to the instructions and see the list of which packages will be in Workiva. If any of your other team members do any of these packages, then yes, you'll need to add them on your contact form and indicate that they need Workiva access. Wendy says we need to contact the sheet owner. Wendy, I'm going to get back with you after the training because I'm not totally sure what you're talking about. Carla, we do not currently have general Workiva instructions on how to print, export, etc. All of the packages, though, will have print instructions in them. Right now, I've only got them into this package, but I'm in the process of adding them to the rest. And the print instructions are kind of going to be the same as the export instructions, but I'll get to that in a second when we go over the signature page, because that's part of what I'm going to go over. Any other questions? Okay. I'm going to move on to the signature page. So this is going to look pretty similar to the signature pages we had in the past, and they're going to be pretty consistent for every package. There might be a few minor differences, but overall, same thing. Once you've completed the package, you're going to come here, you're going to put in, sorry, I'm getting over something, I don't even know what it is. My voice is a little messed up. I got a call. You're going to enter your date. I'm not going to go through inputting all this information, but you'd enter date, name, all that. Once you're done and you're ready to actually sign this, you'll need to export it because Workiva no longer has a print button. We used to have that in here, but it has disappeared. So if you're an agency that likes to save your file, you'll be doing this anyway, but if you're not, unfortunately, you're going to have to do an extra step. If you go to the top and click on File, and go to Save As, and click on Excel, and you're going to select Sheet, and just select, actually, let's just do all sheets. Some of it might get a little messed up if you, let's check. We'll test it. Sorry. Do select sheets and just select the ones you're inputting in. I'm not even sure on your end if you can see that. The only one I'm concerned about displaying weird is your agency may disappear, your agency code. But I believe if you do export values as displayed, you should not have that problem. So again, you're going to go to select sheets. You're going to select everything in the package. If you don't want the instructions, obviously you don't have to check that. But you would check the signature page in your form. I'm going to click export. I don't know if this is going to show on the screen or not. Linda, is it now showing this Excel file?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so that did work. You don't have to select all of them. Just select the sheets you need and make sure you select the display, show items as displayed. So it doesn't have any formula errors. And you'll have the whole file. Print it. I'm not going to go through how to print in Excel. Hopefully everyone learned that already, but you can, if someone isn't sure, please let me know and I will go through it. Once you go through that process and you've saved it, you'll have to print it, sign it, save it back as a PDF. You're going to go to attach it to here. You'll need to do it to this cell. As you can see, it says attached to this cell. So to add the signature page you sign, you're going to right click. Oh, sorry, no. You're going to click on it and you're going to go over to the right side with all these little icons and you're going to hit this little paper clip that says attachments. And you're going to click this down arrow to the right of this other arrow pointing upwards and do upload from computer. Just upload a CPE certificate as an example. But you double click on it and hit upload. And once it's uploaded, you'll be able to see it here, but even if this is like closed and you come back later, this cell also has a yellow border around it. And I guess if you click on it, the whole thing turns yellow. I'm going to go ahead and delete that. Not still there. So once you've got your signature page added and all this has been reviewed and all that, you're totally done with the package. Then you'll go up here to the status bar and you're going to hit submitted. It's very important that you do not do this until you are done with the package. If for some reason you finish the package and you realize that you need to change something, please contact our office before doing so. At some point, the package will be locked for editing. And I'll show you what that looks like. Once it's locked for editing, it'll look like this. And it'll say that it's locked. You won't be able to do anything to the package at that point other than look at it. But even if it's not locked yet, if you need to change something, and if this is 30 minutes or an hour later, you're probably fine. You probably don't need to contact us. But if this is several hours later, the next day, please contact us first before reviving the package, because we may have already started collecting the data and we may possibly already be using the data. I think that's that. Does anyone have questions? I know I have some questions already, but if anyone else has questions, you can put them in the chat box or raise your hand. I believe the packages are auto saving, because I have not hit save on any of them. But I don't think you have to worry about hitting save as you're completing the package. Someone asked if there was an autosave feature. I think someone's asking if they can electronically sign the signature page. If you're talking about electronically signing it in the PDF, yes, you can do that. But there's no way to actually do it in Workiva. You'll have to still attach a file with the electronic signature on it. Patrick asked, where do we submit? I'm not sure if he's talking about the actual package or the signature page. Patrick, can you clarify for me which one you're talking about? Okay, I will go through adding the signature page one more time. Or I guess I'll just start over and do the whole thing because I'm not sure if you mean actually saving the file. So as I mentioned before, Workiva does not have a print button. If you just do print screen in your browser, it's not going to print correctly. So you're going to have to save the file. If you go to the top and hit file, you'll have this save as menu that you can click on. It pulls different options down. You'll hit Excel. You might be able to do PDF. I've not tested that yet, but I'm going to go with the Excel for now. You're going to do select sheets and just select the pages you want to save. But please make sure if you're doing that, that you hit export values as displayed, so none of the formulas stop working. So that'll basically get rid of the formulas when you do it. And you click export, it'll pop up. One thing you should keep in mind, I didn't mention this the first time. I've noticed on some of them, not doing it now, but some of them, it will kind of show some things incorrectly. And if you do enable editing, that'll go away. So like right here, it might just show a bunch of number signs or some kind of other gibberish. When you hit enable editing, and you don't have that problem. So once you get this point, you would go through signing it the old way that you all should be familiar with. You'll save that first page as a PDF. You have to print it and sign it. I apologize. I know that's tedious. But once you've got it signed and saved as PDF, you're going to go back to your signature page in Workiva. You're going to click on this cell. It's going to be the cell below the box where you inputted all your information. And it says at the very end, attached to the cell, for the instructions for the signature page. After you've clicked on the cell, you're going to go to the right hand corner over here. There's a bunch of icons. You're going to go to the one that looks like a paper clip. That's the attachments. Towards the top, there's this blue circle with a white arrow inside. To the right, there's a downward arrow. You're going to click on that. You're going to click on upload from computer. You're going to click your file that you want to upload. And once it's successfully uploaded, it's going to show here, but you'll also see a yellow outline in the cell where you uploaded it. When you click out of it, that's all you'll see. But I guess when you click in it, it also is highlighted yellow. Can no one hear me?
I can.
I only have one person saying they can't hear me, so I think that might be an issue on your end. I'm sorry. Everyone else can hear me. Sorry, Joyce. Yeah, that might be a good idea to leave and try to come back in. So Patrick, did that, oh, sorry, there was one more step. After that, to actually submit, and again, this is once the entire package is complete, there's nothing else you need to do. You're going to go to the status bar. There's a drop-down menu to the right. You're going to click submitted. And you should be exiting out of the package and doing nothing else to it after that point. If you realize that you need to change something after that, please contact our office. If you realize that, within 30 minutes, an hour of completing the package, you're probably fine to go in there and change it. But otherwise, you should contact us. At some point, it will be locked for editing and you won't be able to change it, and you will have to contact us. But if you get to it sooner and it's not locked for editing, please still contact us so we can tell you if we need to do anything on our end before you revise it.
Layla, we had a couple of questions in the chat box.
Yeah, I think I've gotten through Patrick's question, but if I haven't, Patrick, please let me know. Someone else asked if multiple users can edit the file at the same time. Yes, as long as it's not locked for editing, everyone within your agency that has access to the reporting package can be in there at the same time. For audit purposes, do we need to download the packages or will the auditors see the packages in Workiva? The auditors will have read-only access to Workiva. I would still recommend saving a copy of the package, at least initially. But they will have access in here as well. I think that's all the questions I'm seeing. Oh, sorry, one more. Someone asked, will the filer receive an electronic notification from Workiva once a file is uploaded on Workiva instead of getting a confirmation email from our ACRA inbox as you have in the past? No, there will be no confirmation. You hit submit and that's it. And it's very critical that you hit submit, because if you complete the package and you don't, you may then get an email from us because we won't know you submitted the package. Does the system track the edits to show the change and the author? It does. Let's see if I can figure out which one that is. I know it keeps a history of everyone that edited. The only thing I'm not positive of is you're completing these reporting packages in input mode. So I'm not positive it will for you. I can double check that and get back to you. It should though. But I know input mode does function a little differently, so it's possible it won't. But I will look at that and get back to you. Jocelyn, I'm writing your name down. Or I can just send out a mass email with the answer to everyone. Oh, sorry, that's April. Anyone else have any questions about the GAAP reporting package, or how to save, or how to submit the package? I have no idea what that means. Okay, someone sent a picture that says the sheet is in input mode. As you can see on my screen, it says that as well. That is what you should see. And all that means is you're only allowed to type in these blue cells. So if you're not able to type in the blue cells, we would still have an issue. But not being able to type in any other cell is not a problem. That is by design. So Diana, if you're not able to type into the blue cells, please let me know. Someone asked if there will be any grace from our office and or the auditors regarding the timeliness of submissions in case we run into any delays due to the new processes or the program. We are considering that. I don't want to say definitely yes or no at this point, but it will kind of depend on the circumstances. Obviously, if it's on our end, it's very likely that yes, you will get some grace. If it's because an agency didn't really try to get their packages squared away until a day or two before it was due, that will be that, because so far we have most of you in the system, and we'll continue to make sure that everyone's seeing what they need to see, and the new users we add will do the same thing as well. But yes, we are keeping that in mind as we implement this new system. Someone else asked if you can export before and after submission. You can export this file whenever you want to. As long as you're able to see it, it's been generated, you'll be able to export it. So you could export it before, and then again after you're done. To clarify again, the two due dates, your initial GAAP reporting package submission is due May 16th, this Friday. This is going to be completed by the two people we added for every agency, because we've only added two. For some agencies, that's all that's needed. Other agencies will need to add additional people to Workiva. So as that initial reporting package submission is completed, you'll indicate those additional users you need, and then we will add them after 5/16, basically next week, and go through the same process of making sure each one of them is able to log in and see everything. And then on June 6th, you will be doing your official FY25 GAAP reporting package. This will actually say, it'll be in the 2025 folder and say 2025. As you see right now, it says 2024 because we've not rolled forward yet. And that will be just to verify that everything we have on file is correct. If you have no changes, you'll literally just do the signature page and submit. But if we possibly did something wrong on our end, or maybe you missed someone, that will give you the opportunity to make additional modifications or changes. Tammy, I'm going to get back with you. I've looked in your folder. The new files are in your folder, so there must be an issue with your permissions. Please don't look in the trash folder. There's tons of old versions of this file in the trash folder. Next question, who should we reach out to in order to get access to Workiva? That hopefully was kind of answered by my spiel a second ago about the GAAP contacts, but if you are someone at your agency that needs access, you need to go talk to whoever's doing your initial GAAP reporting package. They should already know you need access and should know to add you, but you can discuss that with them. Diana, you said I can type in the blue squares, but that's it. It also says to have edit access re-enable, contact a sheet owner. All you need to do is type in the blue squares. There shouldn't be anything else you're doing. So I'm not totally sure what you're wanting to do that you can't do. But typing in the blue squares is all you need to be doing on these. Someone else asked about how will inputting the reports work. Example, the accounts payable package, you would get a report from skis. Will those be uploaded here, or we need to add them in? You will still receive those via email, and you will need to input them in here, just like you would with the old package. If you had a package in the past that was pre-populated with data, that package will still be pre-populated with data. But if it wasn't, then you will still continue to get that report from skis to help you complete the package. And I am going to go into more reporting packages. We're just still on this one. Any other questions? Someone asked if they know this is being recorded. Is there an easy way to access later if we have questions? Do you mean access Workiva or the recording of the training? I'm not sure what you're asking, Betsy. Yes. At the beginning of the presentation, I went over how to get to it on our website. I can show, I'll do that again one more time at the end of the training today to make sure everyone knows where it is. I don't want to do it again right now because I already did it a couple times. But I'll show you again at the end. Just remind me if I happen to forget. Any other questions? Once the reporting packages, someone asked to show what a report looks like when it's been submitted. Is it just in the status? It's going to look exactly the same before you hit submitted. It's just going to show submitted. The only thing that'll look different is once we have locked the file for editing, which depending on how early you submit it, that might be later that day. It might be a couple days. But once it's done, it's going to show locked next to the file. And if you click on it, every page is going to say the spreadsheet is locked. You won't, you won't be able to type. I'm trying to type. You won't be able to do that. You have to contact us to unlock it. Okay. I think that's all the questions. So I'm going to go on to the next reporting package. The master reporting package. This is another one that the instructions have been revised. All of them, like I said, I haven't added the print instructions to all of them yet, but all of them do have the step-by-step attached instructions for the signature page, and the print instructions will be added soon. As you all may have noticed, you can't see the master reporting package in your folder or any other ones, and that's because the GAAP contact reporting package is the only one that has generated. The rest of these will generate based on that schedule I showed earlier. I think for this one, it will you'll be able to see it in Workiva June 23rd, and it's due July 3rd. That should still give you a couple weeks to do it. So again, I'm not gonna go through and read you the instructions, but I do highly recommend reading all of them at least this year because they were revised and changed. Not just for Workiva, but there were some things we kind of tweaked with a lot of these packages. Nothing major, but there's so many changes. I don't want to make sure you miss anything, but this package, I'm just going to go through a handful of questions to kind of give you an idea of how it's going to work. It's still going to be very similar to the old package. I'm actually not going to use these two because they don't give you good action responses. So we'll start with the cash. And this question asks if you have any petty cash on hand. You put yes. It's going to tell you that the cash and investments reporting package is required. And this question, this response is then going to feed into Workiva and tell it to generate the cash and investments reporting package in the future, because that one's not in Workiva this year, sorry. But once it is in Workiva, it would tell it to generate that one. And even though it's not in Workiva yet, you're still going to have this required packages tab like you have in the past, and it will still tell you on there. So let's go to one that isn't Workiva. The tax revenue isn't Workiva this year. So this question is asking about tax revenues. You put yes, it'll tell you that the tax revenues reporting package is required. And again, that will feed into the Workiva system and tell it to generate 3.02 for the agency that puts this. If you put no, just like in the past, sorry. Hit no, it will say no further action required, just like the old package. So most of them are pretty much like that. I'm going to go to some of the questions they're asking for supplemental information. Or like an attachment. Okay, so like this question has nothing to do with the reporting package. It asks if your agency provided resources to or received resources from another agency with an understanding that the resources were borrowed, but no note or repayment contract was executed for the transaction. So for this, we need some information from you, but it's not something you're going to provide through a reporting package. So the prompt here, your action item, will be to attach a document to the cell that provides the details of the situation and your understanding with the other agency. So you could attach a Word document or PDF or whatever to this cell the same manner as you would how you would the signature page, the signed signature page to the signature page, like I showed you at the GAAP contacts. So you'd click here, go to the attachments, go here, upload from computer, you select the file that has the information you need to provide us, and you would attach it there. You'll no longer need to email these things separately or put them somewhere separate. They'll be attached directly to your reporting package. Most of this is going to be kind of the same. You need to answer every question unless it tells you to skip ahead. Like this one, you put yes or no, you don't get a prompt for that one, so just answer the next one. And then it would give you an action to complete or tell you no further action needed. I think there's only a few on here that will tell you to skip ahead to another question. So please make sure you're answering all the questions. We will contact you if we are missing any responses to the questions. And I mentioned before, you still have this required packages form that you can save to help you know what you need to do. And for this year, we also included the GAAP calendar that you can get from our website, but we have it here too. So you can keep track of which way you're supposed to be submitting the packages. Does anyone have any questions about this package? Someone asked, for the master package, if we answer no, but later determine it should have been yes to generate a package, how can the package be added later? So in that instance, we're going to have you revise your master. And then we'll have to go through the process of rerunning our chains that generate the package. If you run into that situation, please try to contact us ASAP. We can go ahead and get that revised, because running the chains to generate the packages is a several hour process. We can't give it to you instantly. And I think in most situations where we've run into that, people, you know, they didn't find out the day before the package was due that they needed to do it. Someone asked, where is the date submitted recorded? The auditors do review this information during their audit. We retain the email from the ACRA team in the past. We actually, even with our old method, we have a log we have of all the reporting packages and when they're submitted. We will still be using that this year, and we provide that to the auditors. And they are supposed to be using our submission log and not anything from the agencies. But we will be checking daily to see if the packages are submitted and going from there. Any other questions? Okay, I don't see anything else. So I'm going to pull up every other reporting package, but some of them I'm going to go into a little more detail than others. And I'm actually going to start with accounts payable because pretty much everyone has to do this package. And it looks pretty much like the old package. There's nothing drastically different here. But I do want to point out a few things that are going to be a little different in Workiva. In the past, in some of the packages, you may have had like a window pop up with instructions on what you should be inputting in the cell. We no longer have that capability in Workiva, so you won't see that anymore. We also aren't able to hyperlink to other pages within Workiva like we did in some of the other packages in the past. So that wasn't in this one, but we did have some that the column headers were hyperlinked to something in instructions. We did lose that functionality as well, but you should be able to go to the instructions still and get the information you need. It's just not as quick and simple as it was before. The formatting, validation, or data validation stuff is also a little different in Workiva. Before, if you put in an input you weren't supposed to, you were not, like Excel would say, no, you can't do that. It needs to be this. Like for phone number, it'd say this needs to be 8 digits, and it would not let you move on until you type in something that was 8 digits. Workiva doesn't have that functionality either, but if you don't put in the right number, the correct number of digits for phone number, as an example, or characters. Let's say I do 1001, and then I just do 2 zeros. It's gonna display in bold red font. So anything in bold red font, you've done something wrong, and you need to correct it before submitting the package. So for phone number specifically, it needs to be 8 characters long. Once you have it right, then it will display in regular black unbolded text. And this is something, again, that is mentioned in instructions for all the packages. Like right here, it mentions the fund input should be 8 characters long, and all the amounts on the package should be positive whole numbers. So if I went over to vendor payables and typed in -1, it's going to show wrong and have the bold red font. Or if I do 1.5, it's going to display it as 2 because it's going to go ahead and round it, but it's still going to show it as the wrong input. If I type in 1000, you will not have that issue. And that's about that for this package, because I'm not going to go into how to actually do the accounts payable reporting package from a theory or substance standpoint. We have trainings on that on our website. That part has not changed. It's just some of the inputting is a little different than in the past. All of the packages that had reviewer checklists before will have reviewer checklists in Workiva. It's going to be the same as in the past. You'll have a drop down where you select yes or no or NA if that applies. You have to make sure that this is done, that you answer all the questions. For some of them, this does vary package to package, but some of them, a no response is an error. This is one of the ones that if you don't do the reviewer checklist correctly, you'll have this error message on the signature page. I think this is one of the ones you have to have a yes or an NA to everything. I'm just going to go through and do yes. I don't think I've seen it, NA. But I have them all completed. I have yes. That error message is now gone. You'll have to read the questions and be careful though, because like I said, not all of them will, some of them, you have to put no to the question for it to be correct. So please make sure you're reading and not just putting yes to everything, because this is here to help you make sure you completed the package right. Thought was put into these questions, and they are important. The reviewer should also be looking at them as well. And that's that for this package. I'm not going to go through the signature page because it's exactly the same as the other two, other than this this aspect of it. Any questions about the accounts payable package? But one other thing I'll add is if you are copying and pasting from like a skis report, I think you have to hit Control V. Oh, that's the That's the link I sent earlier. If you just do paste, you'll get this error message. I'm not sure why. I think it has something to do with Chrome. Maybe you won't get it if you're in Edge or something different. But just keep that in mind if you are copy and pasting into the file. Okay, well, I don't see any questions about this one. Pretty straightforward, hopefully. So I'm going to go through the rest, and you do not, someone asked, where would we upload the received reports for the package? You do not need to upload the received reports for the package. We already have a copy of those. You only need to upload information that's actually requested.
Layla, can you talk to them about the different status that might be in the drop-down box for them?
Okay. We have not started in progress. These two statuses. Our consultants added those. We don't really need to see those. So you can select those if you want, but on our end, we're not interested in those. We're only interested in submitted and revised. So if you wanted to use these like internally, to let your reviewer know you haven't started or you're in progress, they're there for you to use them. But as far as communicating to the CG's office, again, we only care about submitted and revised. Now, like I said, once you've hit submitted, you shouldn't be using the revised status until you've contacted us. But if you get to a point where you need to revise the package, you contacted us and we've given you the go-ahead, or we've unlocked the package, you would go through the process of revising the package, and then you would hit revised. So that's also very important, and thank you, Linda, for reminding me about that. If this is not your initial submission, you've already hit it submitted, and you revised it, we do need you to hit revised once you're done with the revision to communicate to us that it is now revised and no longer your initial submission. Okay, someone else asked, to clarify Denise's question, are you saying that Workiva does not record the submission date and time? The safe submission email has kept us from getting a finding in the past. Workiva is not, it is on some level. I mean, I think this history could be used as evidence. I don't think it's going to tell you, hey, this person's clicked submit though. And just speaking from my time at the auditor's office, maybe things have changed, but when I worked there, we also used the CG's reporting package control log to determine if a package was submitted on time or not. But if anyone has any concerns about that, you can always contact us. We can come up with some supplemental emails that you can have as support for the auditors. It sounds like this would only be an issue if you are submitting, I guess, over the weekend after the due date, because we count it as submitted on time on our end, as long as we see it the Monday after generally the package is due. Okay, well, the auditors will need to change their procedures going forward, because we're not going to be sending emails letting you know we've received your package. We will be sending you an email letting you know we have not received your package. But part of the automation of this process is to get away from doing that. And we still will have the submission control log on our end. I don't know why the auditors would want more than the control log, but we can discuss that with the auditors. once we have our insurance conference with them to get a greater understanding of why they're making you give them emails of when you received it. Juwan, who used to also work at the auditor's office, stated they recently stopped testing for timeliness of reporting package submissions. In future audits, just please make sure, I think he's talking about your agreed upon procedures engagements. When you go through the list of all those procedures, just confirm that that's not one of the procedures before you sign the engagement letter. That was kind of my understanding as I was transitioning out, that we had gotten away from testing that too. So I was surprised to see so many people mention it. I don't know if they're talking about in the last year or two or kind of speaking generally, but I thought the auditor's office had stopped testing for that. We are getting a new, a lot of things are changing at the auditor's office, so I don't want to tell you that would never be a procedure again in the future, but our submission control log, I thought, is what they were supposed to be using for that procedure.
Layla, there was a question up above that wanted to know if the CG does not want working and support files attached to the package anymore, question mark. Isn't it our standard now that if there's a cell that requires documentation, the cell would, the instructions tell you to attach that to the cell, correct?
Yeah, I think I already answered that question, but which one are you talking about?
From Callie Anderson.
Okay, yeah, I think I answered that somewhat with Angela's question, but yeah, she asked about attaching like the skis reports to the reporting packages. No, we do not want you to support any files. Sorry, attach any files to the package that we are not requesting. There may be a situation where we may contact you outside of Workiva just through email to possibly ask for additional support. I would think that'd be pretty limited, and if there's an actual problem. But just preemptively providing support files that we aren't requesting within the package, no, please don't do that anymore. Just provide the files that it asks for on the package. Any other questions? Okay. I'm gonna go through the rest kind of in the order of when they would generate. And these first three, I'm gonna go through kind of quickly because not many agencies do them. This is the loan and notes receivable reporting package. Instructions have been revised to provide more detail on how to complete it, specifically for Workiva, since we no longer have those little windows pop up with instructions. This part of the package is exactly the same as it was the old way, except for those kind of font different, or those formatting things I was talking about before. The fund needs to be 8 digits. If it's not, it'll turn red. And it lists in instructions all the things that have requirements and how they should be inputted. Your GL account needs to be 10. If it's not 10 digits, you'll have the same issue. Okay, for this one, all your numbers need to be positive whole numbers. Oh, sorry. So they're not, again, you'll get that bold red text indicating there's an error. Please make sure you're inputting everything in a blue input cell. These gray ones are being calculated automatically for you. I would make sure that, you know, it's calculating right, but it should be. But you don't need to input anything in these gray cells. Again, I'm not going to go into how to fill out the loan and notes receivable package specifically, because this is just how to do it compared to the old way. And it also has a reviewer's checklist, kind of the same as AP. If that's not completed right, you'll have this error message. You need to make sure you're answering all the questions correctly. And once you do, that will go away. Any questions about that? Has everyone been able to see the loan and notes receivable package? Someone said they're not able to see the other package on the slides.
I have been. Stephanie might have to go out and come back in.
Can someone else let me know if okay. Stephanie can. Has everyone else been able to see it? Oh, someone else said they did. I'm just going to hope everyone else was able to. Patrick, you had your hand raised. I did allow Mike, so I think if you unmute, you should be able to talk.
Is there a sum feature or any kind of calculations, or if we want to double check the calculations in the workbook, do we have to copy everything and paste it into a separate Excel workbook?
Yeah, but I mean, you can kind of click on it and you can see the formula up above.
Okay.
I don't think you could in the old version. If you like really want to triple check just the math running in the background, you could copy and paste it elsewhere. But you wouldn't be able to actually within the Workiva form be able to do it. I don't think. I mean, I guess maybe you could click here and maybe add. Yeah, I guess you could click somewhere and do it just as a check. Just make sure you delete it before you submit the package if you wanted to do it that way.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. Someone asked if they're supposed to be seeing more than the 1.0 contact file. No, at this time, that should be the only reporting package you can see. Unfortunately, just because of the way this new system works, we can't show you the other packages until you've done the master and answered the questions. And we're still kind of in the process of doing the master, so I haven't added it to your files yet, but the master will be available June 23rd for you to start working on. And the GAAP contact, the second submission due June 6th, that'll be available May 26th, so that'll be very soon, even though it's not due until June 6th. Most of the other packages you're going to see, as long as you've done your master reporting package and answered the questions correctly, you should see those on July 9th. So loan and receivables will be July 9th. The accounts payable I showed you earlier is July 9th. All the other ones are July 9th, except inventory and governmental fund balance classification. And that's just because we have to wait until some data's finalized in skis that we use to pre-populate the package. So those come in a little later. Inventory will pre-populate or be available in Workiva July 25th, and governmental fund balance classification will be available August 1st. I'm gonna, unless anyone has any questions about loan and notes receivable, I'm gonna go on to the next package. Don't see any. This is disallowances and penalties. Can everyone see this? Or just let me know if you can't. Linda, can you see it?
I can see
Okay.
it.
This one I'm gonna go through very quickly because as of now, we only have 2 agencies that complete this. This package is not drastically different from the old one. One big difference is the way that they had to set this up. You know, in the past, some of these packages, litigation, for example, you may have copied a tab and just kept adding new tabs for each new litigation situation. In Workiva, it's going to be flowing downward, and there'll be a fixed number that you can add. So for this one, it goes up to 5. The 2 agencies that do this, they've only had one situation, but if you needed to report more than one, you would just scroll down and start inputting your information for your second situation in this bottom part. And some of this, you're going to have stuff pop up depending on what you answer. So if you put yes here, you'll get more information to fill out. Get no, it's going to tell you to go to 7. Kind of same thing with that. Get yes, it'll ask you to put something there. This, it'll tell you to skip to 9. 9, you'll have more stuff to put in. If you don't, it'll tell you your package is complete and you won't need to do anything else in these boxes below. Please make sure that you fill out the entire form, even if you're putting information that you've reported several years in a row. And please make sure you attach a copy of your settlement agreement to this cell. That's not being done every year. Even if we've already provided it to us, please continue to do so. Any questions for this package? Okay. Go to claims. This is another one. I think we only have one agency doing at the time, or at this time. So I'm going to go through it kind of quickly. In the past, the claims reporting package had 2 separate forms. Those have been combined into one form. So everything you'll need, if you only have one claim situation to discuss, it's all going to be in this one box. And you'll fill this out. I don't think you'll be prompted with anything because there's already instructions below this question, yes or no, on what to do. So you should be providing information in every cell in this box. Like I said, if you have another situation, you go down to the second one and fill it out. I think this one also goes up to 5. For some reason, you go past 5, contact us and we'll figure something out, but I don't think that should happen. That's that for this one. Any questions on claims? Okay, I don't see anything. Inventory, this one I'll go through slower because I think a lot more agencies complete this one. Again, like every package, there are detailed instructions on how to complete the package that I highly recommend you read. I do also want to remind everyone that you are supposed to contact the state auditor's office before you do your inventory. Sue Moss asked about that during our GFOA SC conference, so I want to make sure I plug that in there. So this just has dummy information in it. And this package, I still wouldn't say is drastically different from the old one. It's still going to pre-populate with data from skis. The total dollar amount will show up here. Sorry. If it's accurate and you don't need to make any changes, you'd hit yes, you stop. You still have to do your reviewer checklist and the signature page, but you'd be done pretty quickly. If you hit no, you will have to do more on the package. You'll put what the correct total should be, and you're going to go through part A and part B to kind of reconcile between what skis has and what your reconciled total is. So because I'm using dummy data, I don't have a lot of lines here. But let's say I did my physical count and that's the number I came up with. Maybe that too. I would need to add in my adjustments. If it's something I need to increase, I put it here. If I need to decrease the skis balance, I put it here. You can type any comments you feel are necessary here. Again, I only have one line, but a lot of agencies, you're going to have several. But you'll scroll down the bottom, you can see subtotals. And that'll be just for your balances reported in skis. For some reason, let me do this. For some reason you had something not in skis, you'd add it in this part. And you can put comments, like I said, just like you would in part A. But this one, you're just going to add adjustments to increase it because skis has no balance. And once you get it right, and it reconciles to this amount you put up here, those two agree, we're going to get this nice thank you. The entry provided will allow for adjustment of the general ledger for proper reporting. Let's say I was a little off, not quite to the number I said. You're going to get this additional information is needed, and you'll have to kind of figure out where you went wrong that didn't bring you to the balance you reported. I'm working in templates, so I have to make sure I'm deleting everything after I do it. Any questions about this form? Someone asked if the system notify the reviewer that a package is ready. I believe there is a way to do that, but I have not used the feature yet.
And also the fourth from the bottom.
This one, track changes
from the bottom.
Oh, sorry, this one.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you go to this little box, another little box, I don't know how to describe that icon well. That has reviews. You can create a new review. I've not used this feature, so I'm kind of shooting from the hip at the moment. But you should be able to go to your agency code and then find the reviewer you want to select and do create. We will be testing this feature a little bit further soon, so I can kind of give you a little more feedback on how well that works. So you can test it on your end if you want, or you can just kind of use email until we have more information on how well that feature works. As far as contacting the state auditor's office to let you know, or let them know you're doing your inventory, you can contact Sue Moss or Vicki Funk, as Joanne mentioned in the chat. Someone asked, are we only reporting inventory totals, or we still report transfers, et cetera, separately like we do now? James, I'm gonna let you chime in for that, because I'm not totally sure what that question's referring to.
Yeah, there's no change. It is the same process. It's the same form. Basically, it's just in a different wrapper as far as that goes. So you'll continue to report how you always have, which I believe is the balances. So we're looking at the balance by fund for year end. It's what you have in skis currently, and then if that does not tie to what your end of year balance, end of year count was, then you need to tell me what adjustment you need to make to the skis balance to get to where it should be. So no change from that standpoint.
It looks like someone else chimed in and let Amber know she may have been thinking about a different reporting package, the capital assets reporting package. So someone else mentioned that on the home page. Let's see if I can find what you're talking about. There's a panel titled File Reviews. Still not totally sure if that is functioning quite the way we want, just based on this file I have in there. But it has, I don't see the link that Kelly's referring to. I don't know if that's because I already have a file in here. But everyone else may be able to see a link in that section down here where it says file reviews. Hopefully you see where my cursor is. That says learn how to send reviews or refresh. That may be helpful. So everyone else, if you can see that, please keep that in mind. You might want to click on that and learn about that more. We learn more on our end, we'll send out more information and maybe create another separate video on the review process. We're also learning the system too, so we're not experts on it yet. So I apologize if there's certain things we can't give the best response to yet. Are there any other questions for inventory? Okay. We go to miscellaneous loss and liabilities. This one I'm not gonna go into a ton of detail for these first two forms because I don't think they're done by a lot of agencies. This is going to look a little different from the old form, but I think none of it's drastically different enough that you wouldn't know what's being asked. You're still going to put a description, situation, all the information for any attorneys or experts if you have them. You'll put a fund that you would expect to pay it or have paid it. And then you're going to have these 3 columns where you have what you've already paid in periods 1 through 2 of the next fiscal year. So for your FY25 package, that would be anything you paid in periods 1 and through 2 of FY26. This next one will be anything else you expect to pay within FY26 that you haven't already paid in periods 1 through 2. And then this last one would be your non-current, which would be anything you'd be paying in FY27 or after. Both of these two are your current, but we have this broken out because we might still be able to see that information in SKIs, and the rest of it is probably not yet in SKIs yet. And again, please go to the instructions because most of the columns have a description for every single column in case you're getting lost or not sure what's being asked for. Miscellaneous loss contingencies form, the beginning the same as the form I just showed. The only big difference for this one compared to the old reporting package is you could put numerous funds for the same line. On this one, you'll only be able to put one fund. And if for some reason you need to report more than one fund, you will have to create a separate like Excel file breaking out the funding, and you would attach it to this cell. And that note up here explains that. I think everything else on here is pretty much the same. I might be reordered a little differently, but no other drastic changes. This last one is the one, if you attended the GFOA SC conference, this is one of the ones we mentioned that we had to shorten the number of rows because before we had like 200 something, and that was way too many for Workiva. The system couldn't handle it. I think it has 102 or 104. Yeah, 104 now, which is still a lot. But kind of, as I mentioned during the conference, outside of Workiva, we are using this information for a note disclosure. We're not actually making an entry in SKIs. So it is helpful for us if you do aggregate and summarize the information a little more than some of you may have in the past. I think some agencies would get a SKIs report and kind of just do a data dump of that report onto the reporting package. They might have had 200 rows of subrecipient data for a grant that we're passing through to subrecipients, but it was all for the same grant. In that situation, we're asking that you kind of keep it to one row on the package and just provide a grand total and a general description of who you're passing it, the grant funds through to. So if it's, local governments, you put local governments. If you have a grant where you kind of have a few different types of populations of subrecipients, you could still break it out into maybe a few more lines so you can, indicate those different types of populations. But please don't just put each individual subrecipient's commitment on here. You might run out of rows, and again, that's not helpful for us. There's a bunch up at the top because a lot of people get confused about commitments. This is up here to just try to alleviate some of that confusion. Just to remind you that your commitment should relate to a commitment you have to an external entity outside of the state. And it should not relate to any commitments to you. So like if the federal government has awarded you a grant, you should not report that as a commitment on here. But if you have a grant that you're awarding to Richland County, that would go on here. You also need to kind of keep in mind the time frames for commitments. If the commitment is made after June 30th of the fiscal year you're reporting for, you don't report that on here. It's just commitments you made on June 30th or prior to June 30th for goods or services you'll be providing to whoever you've committed the goods or services to in the next fiscal year. And please also make sure you're not reporting any commitments related to capital assets on here, including SBITA or lease commitments. Those go on the 3.8 capital assets reporting package, which will not be in Workiva this year. That will still be done the old way. So any questions about 3.16 miscellaneous loss, contingencies, or commitments? Do see someone said, please don't contact Sue Moss, our acting state auditor. I don't know if there's any harm in contacting Sue Moss, but Dwayne Eanes might be another better contact than Sue Moss at this point. He's kind of in Sue's old role. But Vicki Funk, trying to think. There's a few other people I can't think of off the top of my head. Sue Moss will make sure whoever needs to get it will get it, though. Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay. The tax revenue one, this is another one I'm going to go through very quickly because not many people do it. And it looks very, very similar to the old package. I'm not even going to go through each tab because they're pretty similar. You select your tax type here, put in your phone number, and put all your information. This net receivable is a calculated field. Go through everything, and this gray field, or the non-current receivable, this is also calculated. These last two, they're calculated, but these are supposed to well, this is supposed to just provide information for us, but this last one is supposed to tell you if you've done something wrong, like we're missing something. So if it says incomplete, you haven't given all the information you need to. If I put in some information, I'm just putting in gibberish. As you can see, I put in that other credit account and that changed. But once I have everything inputted, that message goes away. If you have that incomplete message popping up, it means you have not provided something that the forms want you to provide. And the rest of these function the same way, except I think on this one, you do have the option to put in several more GL accounts. But if you have done anything wrong, you'll get the same error note like you have in the past. This particular one, I don't know how many agencies this applies to other than maybe DOR. But if you're required to pay interest on your tax refunds, you'll have to put in, attach a document here with all the information that's requested. Deferred tax, pretty much the same as the tax refunds payable. I will say, I know at least Department of Revenue does kind of have some special forms that they still need to provide to us that this may not explicitly request. It's kind of unique just for you guys. If there's any other agency that maybe is in that situation, please let us know. But DOR, we may, you can contact us when you're getting ready to submit it. We may just have you email us those other forms instead of trying to attach it in here somewhere, since there's not a good designated spot. So I'm sorry that's an extra step, but that's something that kind of just affects you guys. Any other questions? Yes. Matthew, you are just special like that. Any other questions about tax revenues, or if there's another agency that feels like they need to submit some special things for this, like DOR, that they want to chime in? And hopefully everyone's looking at the chat, but there's been additional information added about your inventory. I think they have an Office of State Auditor at osa.sc.gov email address that you can contact about your inventory. That probably is the best one to contact. You could do that one and Vicky if you want to be safe, but it looks like they do not want you contacting Sue or Dwayne. So use this one and or Vicky if you want to be safe, but please don't contact anyone else because they do not want to be contacted about your inventory. Unearned revenue and prepaid are pretty similar. So I'm not going to go into the unearned revenue quite as in detail. I'm actually going to go through prepaid first, and then I'll just do a quick run through of unearned revenue. This again is going to look just like your old package, other than you're going to have way more rows at the bottom. You might notice that in some of the packages, there's a lot more rows because we can't just go in and add rows like we have in the past. So this is the limit. Hopefully we have figured out the correct limit for every package. For some reason you use the limit, please contact us and we'll try to figure out how to get around that. But this is one of the ones I know for sure you could have clicked the column header and it was linked to the instructions, and that's no longer the case because I know people would get really confused, or some people, not everyone, on these last three columns. But if you go to the instructions, it does still have explanations of what should go in those columns. It gives you several examples on how to use those columns and how to roll forward your non-current prepaids from the prior year and how to report them correctly in each column. There's also on our website still training videos from last year on that package and PowerPoint slides with a few different examples. But for this one, again, you got to make sure the fund's 8 digits long. GL account needs to be 10 digits. Agency code, I think a lot of people got confused about this. You only are going to use the agency code if you have a prepaid expense or transaction that you entered into with another agency, which for most of you would just pretty much, I think, be your insurance, which I believe is done with E550. So if you had that, you'd select E550 and you'd have your own line just for that. But everything else, you should be able to aggregate by fund and GL account and not necessarily by your vendor as you have in the past. And for those, you would just leave the agency code blank. You don't need to put anything there. I don't think there's an NA anymore, like the old package had. In this one, I think you also have to use positive whole numbers. Yeah. Make sure you're using positive whole numbers in each of these columns. And you won't be able to see your totals unless you scroll all the way to the bottom. I apologize for that, but they are still on there like they were in the past. Denise, I can get back to you about that question after the training. I want to get into that during the training, but there is something we do with that information. If you send me an email after the training, I'll answer that question for you. I think this is a good example of a reviewer checklist that one of the questions, the correct, or the response that's going to get rid of the error on here needs to be a no, and that's number 7. If there were any payments for debt, lease assets capitalized in accordance with GASB 87, or submitted as capitalized in accordance with GASB 96, reported on Form 3.07.2, you put yes, that's an error, and you just get those off, and you'll see. I mean, I don't have the rest of them filled out, but if I had all of them right, and then this one, you would still have that error message. But once you make sure all of those are off and you put no, that goes away. Or again, if it's not applicable, you put NA. So that's that for this one. Someone asked if they need to use the agency code for IDT payments. If you have a prepaid expense that related to an IDT payment, then yes. But it's only if it's going to be prepaid. Hopefully that makes sense, but anything on here that relates to a transaction you're entering into with another state agency, that's when you need to use this agency code. Did that answer your question, Mia, or did I not explain that well? Hopefully, oh, okay, I did. Okay, great. Any other questions for prepaid? Okay, I'm gonna go on to unearned revenue. I'm literally just going to, because it's so similar to prepaid, I'm gonna spend less time on it. One difference for this one, obviously prepaids, no one's recording those in skis, but unearned revenue, you do have the capability to record in skis. So please let us know with this yes or no drop down if you have, because we want to make sure we don't end up double booking anything. You still have a GL account, fund number, amount. Revenue type, you can type in a description if you want to provide a little more information. And kind of, as it mentions at the top, I think the instructions go through every column, but A, B, and G seem to be the ones people get most confused about. So it specifically tells you to go to the instructions to read further guidance on how to complete those. The agency code, kind of the flip side of the prepaid expenses. If for some reason I don't think we're really getting anyone that has this situation, but if you got an agency that paid you in advance of you providing them the goods or services, you would need to do a separate line for that and put their agency code there. Otherwise, you can just leave that blank. That for this one. Any questions about unearned revenue? Okay. We'll go to the Interfund. This one has two forms. So that might be one of the first ones we've looked at so far that have actual two forms that aren't a signature page or a viewer checklist. But we have one for Interfund payables and one for Interfund receivables. You'll only be reporting payables over 100,000 on this form. You need to enter the fund as 8 characters, kind of like all the others. It should be consistent for every package. If you don't do that right, it's gonna shame you with the red bold text. And your GL account, kind of the same way, needs to be 10 digits, or it's going to display wrong, and you'll need to correct that. This one, the agency that you owe the amount, you're going to select from this drop down, and the fund that you owe the amount to. I know sometimes the agencies may not know the fund that they owe the amount to. And I think it's okay if that's left blank in that situation. I'll let Linda chime in if I'm wrong about that. Linda's the one that actually does this package.
You're correct. There's nothing really that's changed.
Okay. So yeah, the fund owed amount or the related GL account, just provide that if you're able to, but these we don't have to have if you don't know. We do need you to provide the skis document number of where you entered the transaction in skis, if you have it. I know sometimes you're doing it kind of before it's been processed. And if that's the case, you'd leave that blank. We definitely need the dollar amount. This one's pretty critical. Please make sure you're doing that. And I think this also has to be positive whole numbers like the other ones. So basically, these first 4 columns and the last one are critical. We need you to make sure you fill those out. well, and the SKI's got documents number, sorry. But, sorry, let me start over. Everything but fund owed the amount and related GL account for the revenue, we pretty much need to have. If you can provide those, great. In most cases, you should also have the SKI's document number, but there might be a few limited cases where you don't, and that could be left blank in those situations. Interfund receivables, it's exactly the same as the payables, but in the inverse, so I'm not going to go through it. That's about that for this one. This one does not have a total at the bottom. Linda, is there anything else you want to add for this one?
No, ma'am, this one's good.
Okay. Any questions from anyone else on the interfund payables, receivables? Okay. The last package, this is another one I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on just because we're going to have a separate training just on governmental fund balance classification. So I would like to have more time to go through that in detail. But I'm just going to kind of show you how this form looks. I'm going to go into, again, the changes because I'm going to discuss that in that training we're having in the future, which we will be sending you more information about, hopefully by the end of this week. This one, kind of like the old one, you still have drop downs for each fund. The funds are still going to pre-populate, have this pre-populating with made up information. First question is the same. If you're using the fund, still using it, you put yes or no. 2 is the one that's a little different. And I don't want to get into too much now, but it's another yes or no question. 3 is also slightly different, but basically, if this is the documented classification is blank here, or the classification shown is incorrect, you would select the correct classification here. 4 asks if any balance or any portion of the fund balance relates to a grant. You put yes or no. If it's a 5 fund, meaning the fund starts with a 5, please put NA. It'll save you a lot of time than if you put yes, because you don't need to provide any more information for those. We already know that they're federal funds. Federal grant funds, sorry. 5 is the same as last year where you'd put the amount that the portion of the grant fund balance that relates to a grant, you'd input that here. And 6 is the question that is new. And you'll have to provide a little more information about how the balance relates to the grant. So you'll have to put the name of the grant, the entity that awarded you the grant, and if this balance that you're indicating relates to a grant is either just the residual balance of the grant revenues or matching funds for the grant. And I only have those 2 options, but you might have a third scenario I hadn't thought of, and you would also put that here. And these 4 boxes to the right will give you action prompts. So if I said I didn't use the fund anymore at fiscal year end, you'll have something pop up prompting you to attach a document to this cell explaining why it's no longer being used. So you attach a Word document or whatever to provide that information. You put yes to 2, it's going to prompt you to complete the next form that I'll get to in a second. This one does not pop up any action things. This one pops up, basically asking what the next two questions do, but it's on there twice to really hit it home to you. And if you select a different classification here, it also prompts you to fill out the next form. So the next form, similar to the last one, in the past, I think you were only using this if you were changing classification or basically a new fund that didn't have a classification yet. It would pop up here, and I'll here. This one I hit yes, and it's also going to show up here. This one below it showed up here because it was blank because it's a newer fund. This is all last year data, but whatever classification you select, if you do, will pop up here. And if you're changing the classification, because there will be instances where you necessarily you may not be changing the classification. You put it here. You put in fund purpose. In the past, you kind of put the authorizations over the fund all in one column. It's now broken out now by revenue authorizations versus the constraints on the use of the fund resources. In some cases, those may be the same, but sometimes they're different. So if they're the same, you'll just put the same thing in both boxes. If they're different, then you'll need to put the respective thing in each box. Like I said, I'll go into this in more detail during that governmental fund balance training we have later. Just wanted to give you kind of a heads up on how the form looks. I mean, even as you can see, I'm still kind of working on it. That's why not all of this is green yet, but I'm pretty close to being done. The classification definitions tab we had in the past had a little graphic at the top that was probably helpful. They were not able to bring that into Workiva. So unfortunately, that's not there anymore, but we still have all the different classifications with definitions and examples, and some of these have been updated for FY25. And instructions have been updated in more detail for the new package. Kind of a reminder for this package, this is for governmental funds only. So fiduciary funds and enterprise funds are not going to be on here for proprietary funds. Just governmental funds. So if you're going through and you don't see a fund on here and you think it should be on here, you can contact us, but that may be a big reason why it's not on here.